Clubfoot is the key element of this case? Hamish's confession. The worn-down double heel of his left shoe reveals that Martin Hamish suffered from a clubfoot and tibial torsion. Hamish acted alone? Martin Hamish was unable to run due to the tibial torsion on his club foot. Therefore, we should find out if he has sufficient time to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room and activate the ventilation system. Did he have an accomplice? Oh snap, plot twist! Discuss with Lestrade the possible impact of new clues found on the body of Martin Hamish. Oh snap, plot twist!
Something about this rings very oddly.
Why do you say that, Mr. Holmes?
Why? Because of Mr. Hamish's club foot. Oh, I deserve to be kicked from here to Charing Cross. I should have noticed it.
But, Mr. Holmes, I can't see why.
No, I don't suppose you do. You must recall that Mr. Dunn was locked inside the Colonial Collection Room by the murderer. If it was Mr. Hamish, he would have had to run up to his workplace to trigger the fan situated above it, taking into consideration the condition of his foot.
Well, it is still possible.
Perhaps, but it is rather strange that such a person as Mr. Hamish decided to base his plan on the speed of his gait.
You mean to say that somebody helped him?
So the suicide is questionable?
Correct. Mr. Hamish accuses only himself in his letter, and so the investigation stops.
Possibly an accomplice, then? That idea had not occurred to me, Mr. Holmes.
I have another idea, Inspector. Thanks to the testimony that we have collected, we are able to rebuild the events as they took place that day.
With a timeline, such as we did in the Jack the Ripper case.
Precisely.
The map at the entrance of Kew Gardens should help us with our timeline.
Albert was in the Seed House.
Let us analyze the facts and statements so that we may recreate the events of that morning.
Oh, great. Martin Hamish and Montaigne Dunn went to meet Albert in the Seed House at around 9:30. Albert meets in the Seed House. It was around 20 minutes to 10 when Hamish and Montaigne Dunn went out to the backyard. After 10 minutes, Dunn recommenced his inspection and entered the dry tropics room. Hamish returned to the Seed House. Martin Hamish had a conversation with Miss White at 10 o'clock. Miss White was in the laboratory until 10:40 when she saw Hamish and Albert in the Waterlily greenhouse and joined them there. Hamish ran to Albert as soon as he observed Montaigne was unwell, which was around 10:30. Albert was in the Seed House the entire morning. He observed Hamish returning from visit Miss White at 10:10. Saw Hamish returning from visiting Miss White at 10:10. Play events. Right. 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 Right.
Let us summarize. Montague Dunn was poisoned inside the Colonial Collection Room. He forced open the door, which means that someone locked him inside there at 10:20. Martin Hamish was last seen at 10:10. This means that he has approximately 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room. Given that he was club-footed, it is doubtful. Albert also has 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room, which is quite enough time. Miss White was last seen at 10 o'clock, which means that she had approximately 20 minutes to lock the door. More than enough time. Perfect, Watson. Now, let us ascertain who assisted Martin Hamish in killing Montague Dunn.
Okay. She said that she was there the whole time. But there's no time or date on the cylinder that she said was recorded at that time.
Let us summarize. Montague Dunn was poisoned. Martin Hamish was last. Albert also has 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room, which is quite enough time. Miss White was last seen at 10 o'clock, which means that she had approximately 20 minutes to lock the door. More than enough time. Perfect, Watson.
White's timeline, Albert's timeline, Hamish's timeline, White's situation. Wait a minute. White had time. Miss White had 20 minutes. It would have been enough to trap Montaigne Dunn. She could have locked the door and alerted Martin Hamish to activate the ventilation system. Martin Hamish and Miss White were not accomplices. It is unlikely that White would have the opportunity, and 20 minutes would have not been. No, that's not correct. That's nothing. There's still nothing. Hamish Albert's timeline. Martin Hamish and Albert are not accomplices, and likely that Albert would have the 10 minutes would not have been enough. Albert was Martin's team would have been enough for to lock the door, in order that Martin might activate the ventilation system. White is an accomplice. Albert is an accomplice. When we first arrived, we saw Hamish berating Albert. Determine the identity of Martin Hamish's accomplice. When we first arrived, we saw them arguing, didn't we? Are there any more clues? Or is this everything? Do I have to run through one more time? And also, is there anything else in the other places? There's nothing else there. Let me just go back to the dialogues. Kew Garden, Seed House, outdoors. No, that's not him. Outdoors. Don't touch anything else, is that clear? Just go get a bucket of fertilizer and without turning it over this time. So what does he think of That fellow yonder is Albert, he works here. Just a second, since Albert has nothing else to do, Albert showed this gentleman where the exhibition was held. So, like, he's also hard on Albert. He also doesn't think much of Albert. Albert, whom we met, and Miss White. It seems somewhat depleted. Maintenance work, busy. Great pretense that he cared at all. Some kind of man of action, overzealous. His kind of lifestyle. No secret that he enjoys celebrating. And an eye for the ladies. Albert, I can only imagine why. What do you mean? Albert keeps all the keys to the greenhouses. But he gave an extra set of keys to White. Okay, so both White and Albert had keys. Albert keeps all the keys. Dunn's son. Okay, Albert and White had keys. So he doesn't even have the keys. Hamish doesn't have the keys to lock him in. He doesn't own any of the keys. Alright. I think he wants to take over the management here. No, you better leave that to me. No experience at all. So it's not. I think it's White because Hamish does not get along with Albert. Useless. I can only give him cleaning tasks. Botany is not as Foster criticized. Blah 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 blah. Humiliating. He was crushed. That is except for Miss Margaret White, who is such a nice lady and who always takes pity on Albert. Tell us more about her. She's a student who works here part-time. She's quite charming. Possesses a great talent for botany? She possesses a great talent for botany? No, she doesn't. Quite charming. You should take a look at some of her experiments that she has carried out. If only she was not so naive. Why naive? The way she used to flutter around Mr. Montaigne Dunn, and why he couldn't help but be flattered by all her attention. How could an intelligent woman such as Miss White not see through his game? I can only scratch my head and wonder. Right. So what does she say? Thank you, good day, hello. What does she think of? He was a master great leader. I saw him almost as a spiritual father. How well did you know Mr. Montaigne Dunn? I saw him almost as a spiritual father. What does that mean? Exceptional nature, yes indeed. He was active, optimistic, and very nice to me, although he could behave harshly to us. Very nice to her. Divine Syndicate, not at all. Yes, Albert gave me a set of duplicate keys. He agreed I might carry out my studies without disturbing him. It's only temporary. Can you tell me what was done? I can't. Nothing special that day. I only stopped my work once when Mr. Hamish visited me briefly around 10. Around 10. When I listened to the roll, recording an experiment when the tragedy occurred. If number 320 Evidence 320. The cylinder recorded by Miss White appears to be quite lengthy, thereby proving that she remained in the laboratory on the day of her crime. But there's no date and time recorded on the cylinder, right? Can I listen to it again or not? Evidence required. I can't listen to it again? Ah, nuts.
I don't hear anything.
No, can we listen to 320 again? The phonograph, quote-unquote, proves that she's there, but there wasn't a date and time on the phonograph, so it could just be a lengthy recording from a different time. What does Albert think of Hamish? Well, actually, back here. Timeline review. So she stopped work at around 10. Play event. So at 10 she stopped work because
Let us summarize. Montague Dunn was poisoned inside the Colonial Collection Room. He forced open the door, which means that someone locked him inside there at 10:20. Martin Hamish was last seen at 10:10. This means that he has approximately 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room. Given that he was club-footed, it is doubtful. Albert also has 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room, which is quite enough time. Miss White was last seen at 10 o'clock, which means that she had approximately 20 minutes to lock the door, more than enough time. Perfect, what?
yeah, because no, I think it's because at 10 o'clock Hamish goes to the lab to talk to White. That's when he could have told White that that Dunn is heading to the colonial room, and maybe that's when White went and locked the colonial room behind him. That makes sense. Or alternatively, Hamish went to make sure that White stayed in the lab to distract White while Albert ran the other way to go lock the colonial room. That's also possible. That's less likely. That's less likely, I think. I wish we can listen to the cylinder again. And like listen to the whole thing. The game tells us that the cylinder is long enough that to prove that she stayed in the lab. But there's no confirmation with I don't know if we can trust the game on this one. Key garden success. The breakup. I mean, this would allow White to keep working at the gardens. Personal loan. See, I don't know if we can trust this paragraph right here, this sentence here. I don't know if we can trust this. Like, the game just says that, and I don't know if we can take that at face value.